The night she broke the silence. At exactly 4003 a.m., my wife stood in the doorway of our bedroom, her voice trembling but loud enough to slice through sleep like glass. "You don't own me." For a moment, I thought I was dreaming. The kind of dream where reality feels close enough to touch, but something is just slightly off, the shadows too sharp, the silence too heavy. I blinked into the dim light. The digital clock glowed red against the wall. 4003, she was really there. Maya. Her hair was messy, falling over her shoulders like she hadn't slept at all. Her chest rose and fell unevenly, as if she had been holding her breath for years and had finally decided to exhale all at once. I pushed myself up slowly, resting my back against the headboard. My voice came out calmer than I felt. "I never said I did." That only made things worse. Her lips trembled, her eyes glistening with something deeper than anger. Hurt. No resentment. The kind that doesn't appear overnight. The kind that builds quietly, layer by layer, until it becomes something unrecognizable. "You didn't have to say it," she shot back. "You act like it every day." I rubbed my face, trying to clear the fog in my head. My heart was already racing, though I wasn't sure why. Fear? Confusion? Maybe both. "Maya, it's 4 in the morning, I said softly. "Can we talk about this later?" "No," she snapped. "That's the problem, Armin. We always talk later. We never talk now." Her voice cracked on the last word. That's when I realized this wasn't just an argument. This wasn't about something small. This had been brewing for a long time, and I had missed it. We had been married for 6 years. 6 years of what I thought was stability, comfort, routine. The kind of life people spend years trying to build. We met in university. She studied architecture. I studied business. She was loud, expressive, full of ideas that spilled out of her like sunlight. I was quieter, more structured, the kind of man who believed life worked best when everything had its place. She used to say we balanced each other. "Like chaos and order," she would laugh. "You keep me grounded, and I keep you alive." I didn't realize back then that balance can slowly turn into imbalance if you're not careful. "Maya," I said again, softer this time, "what is this really about?" She let out a bitter laugh. "You still don't get it." She walked further into the room, arms wrapped around herself like she was trying to hold something together that was already falling apart. "I quit my job today." The words hit me like a sudden drop in temperature. "What?" "I quit," she repeated. "I walked out, no notice, no plan, just left." I sat up straighter. "Why would you do that?" There was a pause, a long one. Then she looked at me in a way I had never seen before, because I couldn't breathe anymore. Silence filled the room again, but it felt different now, heavier, like it carried weight. "Maya," I said carefully, "you loved that job." "I used to love it," she corrected, "before it became another place where I felt trapped." "Trapped?" I frowned. "How were you trapped? You were leading projects. You were—" "Because every decision I made," she interrupted, her voice rising again. I could hear your voice in my head. That stopped me. "My voice?" "Yes," she said, stepping closer. "What would our man think? Is this practical? Is this safe? Is this worth the risk?" Her eyes filled with tears. I stopped being myself. I opened my mouth to respond, but nothing came out, because a small, uncomfortable part of me understood what she meant. I had always been the careful one, the planner, the voice of reason. I told myself I was protecting us, building a stable life. But maybe I had been controlling without realizing it. "I was just trying to help," I said quietly. "I didn't need help," she whispered. "I needed space." The word lingered between us. Space, such a simple word, but in that moment, it felt like a threat. "How much space?" I asked, my voice tightening despite my effort to stay calm. She hesitated, and that hesitation told me everything. "I don't know," she admitted. That was worse than any answer she could have given. I got out of bed slowly, my feet hitting the cold floor. The room suddenly felt unfamiliar, like I was standing in someone else's life. "So you quit your job," I said, trying to piece things together. "And now what?" "I don't know," she repeated. "You don't know?" I echoed, frustration creeping in. "Maya, you can't just walk away from everything without a plan." "There it is," she said immediately. "What?" "That tone," she replied, "that exact tone." I clenched my jaw. "I'm being realistic, and I'm being honest," she fired back. For the first time in years, we stood there facing each other like strangers trying to remember how they used to be in love. "Do you even hear yourself?" she asked. "Everything has to make sense to you. Everything has to be controlled, calculated. Because that's how you build a life," I said. "No." She shook her head. "That's how you build a cage." The word hit harder than I expected. A cage. Was that what I had built for her? For us? "I never forced you to stay," I said quietly. She looked at me, her expression softening for just a second. No, she said. You didn't. Then her voice dropped. But you made it very hard to leave. Something inside my chest tightened. That's not fair, isn't it? She asked. Her gaze held mine, unwavering. You made me feel like everything I wanted was irresponsible. Like every dream I had was something that needed to be fixed. I shook my head. That's not true. It is, she insisted. You just didn't see it. For the first time that night, I felt something crack inside me. Not anger, not even defensiveness. Just doubt. Because maybe she was right, and maybe I had been too blind to notice. What do you want, Maya? I asked finally. The question came out softer than I expected. She exhaled slowly, like she had been waiting for me to ask that. I want to feel like myself again. And does that include me? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Her eyes filled again. I don't know. That was the moment everything shifted. Not the shouting, not the accusations, but that answer, I don't know. 6 years of marriage, and she didn't know if she still wanted me in her life. I nodded slowly, even though it felt like my chest was collapsing inward. Okay, I said. She looked surprised. Okay, if you need space, I continued, forcing the words out steadily, then take it. Arman, I mean it, I said. I won't stop you. There was a long silence. Then she asked a question I think she had been afraid to say out loud. Where would I go? I swallowed. My parents' house, I said. Or wherever you feel free. The word felt strange coming out of my mouth. Free. She stared at me for a long time. Then, slowly, she nodded. Okay, and just like that, at 4027 a.m., our marriage stopped feeling like a certainty. It became something fragile, something temporary, something that could break at any moment. As she turned to leave the room, I said her name one last time. Maya. She paused, but didn't turn around. I never wanted to cage you, I said. Her voice came back soft, almost lost. I know. A pause. But you did. The door closed quietly behind her. And for the first time in 6 years, I was alone. I didn't go back to sleep. I sat there until the sun started to rise, watching the light slowly creep into the room we had once filled with laughter, plans, and promises. Now it felt like a place where something had ended. Or maybe something had just begun. Because deep down, I knew one thing for certain. That 4 a.m. conversation wasn't the end of our story. It was the beginning of something much more painful and much more honest. The distance between us. The house felt different the moment she left. Not empty, not immediately. It was something subtler than that. Like the air had shifted. Like something invisible that used to hold everything together had quietly slipped away before I even realized it was gone. Maya didn't leave that morning. She stayed. That was almost worse. Around 7 a.m., I found her in the kitchen. She was standing by the window, staring out at the narrow street below. The early light painted everything in pale gold, but it didn't touch her. She looked like she was somewhere else entirely, somewhere far beyond this apartment, beyond me. I leaned against the doorway for a moment before speaking. You didn't sleep. It wasn't a question. She shook her head slightly. Neither did you. No. Another silence. We used to be good at silence, comfortable with it. It used to feel like peace. Now it felt like distance. I made tea, she said after a while, gesturing vaguely toward the counter. 2 cups sat there, one untouched. I walked over and picked mine up. It had already gone lukewarm. Thanks. She nodded. We stood there like polite strangers sharing a kitchen. When are you leaving? I asked. The words sounded harsher out loud than they had in my head. She flinched, just slightly. I don't know yet. I nodded slowly. Okay. But inside, something tightened again. She should know, shouldn't she? If you're leaving your husband, shouldn't there be certainty in that decision? Or maybe uncertainty was the point. I'll call my parents, she added after a moment. Maybe later today. All right. I took a sip of the tea. It tasted bland, like I couldn't fully process it. Maya, I said carefully, this doesn't have to be sudden. She let out a quiet breath. It's not sudden, she said. It feels sudden to me. That's because you weren't listening. That stung more than I expected. I set the cup down slowly. Then help me understand, I said. Now I'm listening. She turned to face me fully for the first time that morning, and for a second, just a second, I saw the woman I fell in love with. But she looked tired, not physically, emotionally. Do you remember the design competition I told you about last year? She asked. I frowned slightly. The one in Dhaka? She nodded. You said it wasn't worth the risk. I said it would be hard to manage with your workload, I corrected. You said it wasn't practical, she replied. I hesitated. Maybe I had. I didn't apply because of that, she continued. And I told myself you were right, that it was smarter to focus on stability. She gave a small, hollow laugh, but I kept thinking about it, every single day. I shifted uncomfortably. Maya, that was just one decision. It wasn't just one, she interrupted gently this time, not angry, just certain. That was one of many. She started listing them, not in a rushed or emotional way, but calmly. Too calmly. The freelance project she turned down, the art workshop she didn't attend, the late night she stopped working on her own designs because I once said she looked exhausted and should rest instead of overdoing it. Each one sounded small on its own, but together, they painted a pattern I couldn't ignore. I thought I was supporting you, I said quietly. I know, she replied. That made it worse. I know you meant well, she continued. You always mean well, Armand. That's the problem. I looked at her confused. How is that a problem? Because it makes it harder to argue with you, she said. Harder to even see what's happening. Her words settled heavily between us. I wasn't trying to control you, I said. I know you weren't trying, she replied. But you were. I ran a hand through my hair, frustration building not at her, but at myself, because I could see it now. Not clearly, not perfectly, but enough. Enough to know she wasn't making this up. So what happens now? I asked. She hesitated again. I need time, she said. Time to figure out who I am without all of this. All of this, I repeated. She looked around the apartment, then back at me. Yes, the word felt heavier than anything she had said before. Not just me, everything, our life. You're talking like this is something you have to escape from, I said. Her voice softened. Maybe it is. I looked away, out the window, anywhere but at her. Because if I kept looking at her, I might say something I couldn't take back. Or worse, I might say something that made her stay for the wrong reasons. All right, I said after a long pause. Take your time. She studied me carefully. You're being very calm. I gave a faint, humorless smile. Would you prefer I panic? A small flicker of something crossed her face. Sadness, maybe. No, but don't mistake calm for indifference, I added quietly. Her expression shifted. I'm not okay with this, Maya. I just don't want to force you to stay. For the first time that morning, her eyes softened in a way that felt familiar. I know. Around noon, she started packing. Not everything, just a suitcase. That somehow made it more real than if she had taken everything, because it meant she wasn't sure. And uncertainty can break you more slowly than finality. I sat on the edge of the bed, watching as she folded her clothes carefully. You don't have to rush, I said. I'm not rushing, she replied. If I stay longer, I might not leave at all. That hit harder than I expected. So the only way you can go is if you go now. She nodded slightly. Yes. I looked down at my hands. Was it really that bad? I asked. She stopped packing. For a long moment, she didn't answer. Then she said, very quietly, no. I looked up. That wasn't the answer I expected. It wasn't bad, she continued. That's why it's so confusing. She sat down across from me. You're a good man, Armin. You've always been good to me. Then why does it feel like I'm losing you? I asked. Her eyes filled again. Because being good isn't always enough. I didn't have an answer for that. Maybe there wasn't one. By 2 p.m., her suitcase was by the door. She stood there, her hand resting on the handle, like she was waiting for something. Or maybe for me to say something. Anything. Are you sure? I asked. It wasn't a demand, just a question. She looked at me for a long time. No, she said. Then why go? Because if I wait until I'm sure, she whispered, I might never leave. I nodded slowly. That made sense, and it terrified me. When she reached for the door, I spoke again. Maya. She turned this time. Do you still love me? The question felt small compared to everything else, but it was the only one that mattered. Her face broke in a way I hadn't seen before. Yes, she said. No hesitation, no doubt, yes. Relief flooded me. But it didn't last. Then why does this feel like goodbye? I asked. She shook her head, tears slipping down now. Because I don't know if love is enough to fix this. And there it was. The truth neither of us wanted to say out loud. She opened the door, stepped outside, then paused. I'm not leaving forever, she said, but her voice didn't sound certain. I forced a nod. I'll be here. She gave a small, broken smile. I know. And then she left. The sound of the door closing echoed through the apartment. Louder than it should have been, final in a way I wasn't ready for. I stood there for a long time, staring at the empty space she had just occupied, half expecting her to come back, to say she changed her mind, to tell me this was all a mistake. But she didn't. That night, I sat alone in the same kitchen, 2 cups on the counter, one untouched, and for the first time I understood something I had never truly grasped before. You don't lose someone all at once, you lose them slowly, in small moments, missed conversations, unspoken feelings, choices that seem harmless at the time, until one day, they're standing at the door with a suitcase. And you realize you've already been losing them for a long time. I picked up my phone, scrolled to her name, Maya, my wife. My thumb hovered over the call button, then stopped, because for the first time in 6 years, I didn't know if I had the right to ask her to come back. And that uncertainty was far more terrifying than being alone. The things we never said, the first night without her didn't feel real. It felt like she had just stepped out for a while, like she'd come back any minute, drop her bag on the chair, complain about traffic, and ask where we were having for dinner. I left the kitchen light on. I don't know why. Maybe some part of me believed that light would guide her back. She didn't come back. The second day was worse, because that's when reality started settling in, not all at once, but in small, uncomfortable details. Her toothbrush was still next to mine. Her mug was still on the shelf, the one with the chipped handle she refused to throw away. Her scarf still hung by the door. Everything was there, except her. I went to work anyway. Routine felt safer than sitting alone with my thoughts. At the office, nothing had changed. Emails still needed answering. Meetings still happened. People still talked about deadlines and numbers and things that suddenly felt meaningless. "Hey, you look tired," my colleague Rahat said as he leaned against my desk. "Didn't sleep much," I replied. "Same," he laughed. "Life, man." I almost told him. Almost. But I didn't, because I didn't know how to explain something I barely understood myself. By the third day, the silence at home became unbearable, not loud, just constant, like a low hum that never stopped. That evening, my phone buzzed. My heart jumped before I even checked the screen. Maya. I stared at her name for a few seconds before answering. "Hello? Hi." Her voice was softer than I expected, careful, like she was testing the distance between us. "How are you?" she asked. The question felt strange, like we were strangers catching up instead of two people whose lives had been intertwined for years. "I'm okay," I said. It wasn't true, but it was easier. A pause. Then she said, "I reached safely. I figured. I thought I should let you know." "I'm glad you did." Another silence. Longer this time. "How's the house?" she asked. "The house. Not our home. Just the house." "It's quiet," I said. She let out a faint breath. "Yeah." I wanted to say something more, something real, something that would bridge the gap forming between us. But the words didn't come. Or maybe I didn't know which words would make things worse. "I started sketching again," she said suddenly. That caught me off guard. "Already?" "Yeah." There was something in her voice, not happiness exactly, but something lighter, freer. "That's good," I said. And I meant it, even though it hurt. "I forgot how much I missed it," she continued, "just drawing without thinking about whether it's useful or not." Her words weren't sharp, but they still cut, because I knew who had made her think that way. "I'm glad you're doing something you love," I said quietly. Another pause. Then, more hesitant this time, "Do you want me to come back?" The question hung in the air, heavy, dangerous. My chest tightened. Yes, my heart screamed, but my mind remembered everything she said, about space, about finding herself, about not being sure. "I want you to be where you feel right," I said slowly. It felt like the hardest sentence I had ever spoken. She didn't respond immediately. When she did, her voice was barely above a whisper. "Okay." We ended the call not long after. No arguments. No promises. Just distance. That night, I couldn't sleep again. But this time, it wasn't just because she was gone. It was because I couldn't stop replaying everything. Every conversation. Every decision. Every moment I thought I was helping, but maybe wasn't. I remembered the night she stayed up until 2 a.m. working on a design. I had walked in, seen her exhausted, and said, "You should sleep. This isn't worth it." She closed her laptop. I thought I was being caring. I remembered when she showed me a bold, unconventional concept. I had frowned slightly and said, "Do you think clients would go for something like this?" She never showed me anything like that again. I remembered all the small moments, the ones that didn't feel important at the time, but now they felt like pieces of a puzzle I had ignored. By the end of the week, I realized something I hadn't wanted to admit. It wasn't just her who needed space. I needed to understand who I had become in this relationship. So I did something I hadn't done in years. I took a step back from everything. I stopped staying late at work. I stopped filling my time just to avoid going home. I started sitting in the silence instead of running from it. And slowly, uncomfortably, I started seeing myself more clearly. I wasn't a bad husband, but I wasn't the husband she needed either. A week later, I found something that shifted everything. I was cleaning the bedroom, not because I wanted to, but because I didn't know what else to do. That's when I found it. A notebook, tucked away in the drawer beside her side of the bed. I hesitated before opening it. It felt private, like I was crossing a line, but curiosity won, or maybe desperation. The first few pages were sketches, beautiful ones, free, unrestricted, the kind I hadn't seen from her in a long time. Then I turned a page and saw writing, "I love him, I really do, but sometimes I feel like I'm disappearing." My chest tightened. He doesn't mean to do it. That's the hardest part. If he were cruel, it would be easier to leave. I swallowed hard. I don't know if I'm losing myself or if I've already lost myself. I closed the notebook. I couldn't read anymore, because for the first time, I saw her pain not through arguments or words spoken in anger, but through honesty she never said out loud, and it broke something inside me. That night I sat on the floor of our bedroom, her notebook in my hands, my thoughts louder than ever. I had spent years trying to build a stable life for us, but in doing so, I had slowly taken away the very thing that made her her, and now she was gone. Trying to find it again. The question wasn't just whether she would come back, it was whether I could become someone she would want to come back to, and for the first time, I didn't know the answer. Days turned into 2 weeks, 2 weeks into a month. We spoke occasionally, short calls, careful words, updates about life, nothing more. She sounded different, stronger, lighter, more like the woman I'd met years ago. And every time I heard that version of her, I felt both relief and fear, because I started to wonder, what if the version of her that feels most alive is the one that doesn't include me? That thought stayed with me, quiet, unwelcome, but impossible to ignore. Then one evening, everything changed again. My phone buzzed, her name. I answered immediately. "Maya?" There was a pause. Then she said something I wasn't prepared for. "I got an offer." My grip tightened on the phone. "What kind of offer?" Her voice carried something new. Excitement, nervousness, hope. "A design firm in another city," she said. "A big one. They saw my work." My heart sank and lifted at the same time. "That's amazing," I said, and I meant it, even as something inside me started to fracture. "It's far," she added. I figured. Another pause. Then, "I don't know what to do." I closed my eyes, because I knew what this moment was. This wasn't just about a job. This was about her life, her future, her identity, and somehow, my answer would matter. The choice that sets you free. I didn't answer her right away, not because I didn't know what to say, but because I knew exactly what this moment meant, and I was afraid of saying the right thing. "A different city?" I asked finally, my voice steady but quieter than usual. "Yeah," Maya replied. "It's big, Arman. Bigger than anything I've done before." I could hear it in her voice. That spark, the same one she used to have when we were younger, when everything was possibility instead of responsibility. "How far?" I asked. 6 hours, she said. "Maybe more with traffic." 6 hours. Not impossible, but not close either. "And they want you to start soon?" 2 weeks. 2 weeks. It felt like everything in our lives was now measured in short, urgent timelines. "What are you thinking?" I asked. There was a long pause on the other end. I want to go," she said. The words didn't surprise me, but they still hurt. Not in a sharp, sudden way, more like something slowly pulling apart inside my chest. "Then you should go," I said. Silence. "Then, that's it?" she asked softly. I smiled faintly, even though she couldn't see it. "What did you expect me to say?" "I don't know," she admitted. "Maybe ask me to stay." I leaned back against the wall, staring at the ceiling. "I want you to stay," I said honestly. My voice didn't shake. "I just don't want to be the reason you do." Another silence, but this one felt different. Heavier, more emotional. "You've changed," she said. "Have I?" "Yes." I exhaled slowly. "Or maybe I'm just finally listening." She didn't respond immediately. When she did, her voice was softer than I'd ever heard it. "I wish we had done this sooner." That sentence carried regret, not blame, just truth. "Me too," I said. We stayed on the phone longer that night. Longer than we had in weeks. Talking, not arguing, not avoiding, but actually talking. About small things at first. Her sketches, my work, the way the house felt too quiet. The way her parents kept asking if she was okay in that concerned tone that never really helps. Then, slowly, we started talking about us. "I read something you wrote," I admitted at one point. There was a pause. "What? Your notebook?" Silence. Longer this time. "I shouldn't have," I added quickly. "It was private. I just found it." She didn't sound angry, just exposed. "What did you read?" I hesitated, then said the only thing that mattered, that you felt like you were disappearing. Another silence, but this one felt fragile. "I didn't want you to see that," she said quietly. "I needed to," I replied. Because that was the truth. More than any argument, any late-night conversation, those words had made me understand. I didn't know how to say it out loud, she continued. It sounded ungrateful. It didn't, I said. It sounded honest. She let out a soft breath. I never thought you were a bad husband, Arman. I know. You just didn't see me anymore. That hurt. Because I loved her. Deeply. And somehow, I had still managed to make her feel invisible. I see you now, I said. And I meant it. Another pause. Then she asked the question that mattered more than anything else. Is it too late? I closed my eyes. Because I had been asking myself the same thing for weeks. I don't know, I said honestly. For the first time since she left. We were standing on the same ground. No pretending, no certainty. Just truth. I don't want to lose you, she whispered. My chest tightened. I don't want to lose you either. Then what do we do? That was the question. The one that didn't have an easy answer. I thought about everything. The 4 a.m. argument, the silence, the notebook, the distance, the way she sounded now stronger, freer, and I realized something that changed everything. Love wasn't the problem. We still had that. The problem was how we held it, too tightly, too carefully, until it stopped breathing. You go, I said finally. She didn't interrupt this time. She just listened. You take the job, I continued. You build the life you've been holding back. My voice was steady, but every word felt like letting go of something I wasn't ready to lose. And us? She asked. I swallowed. We don't force it, I said. We don't hold on to each other out of fear. Silence. If there's something real here, I added, it'll survive distance. And if it doesn't, she asked softly, that was the hardest part. Then we'll know it wasn't meant to last the way we wanted it to. I hated saying that, but I needed to be honest, for both of us. She didn't cry. Not this time. I'm scared, she admitted. Me too. But I also feel hopeful, she said. I smiled slightly. Then you're doing the right thing. Another long silence. But this one wasn't heavy. It felt open. I'll come see you before I leave, she said. I'd like that. Okay. We didn't say goodbye right away. Neither of us wanted to be the first to hang up. Eventually she whispered, Good night, Arman. Good night, Maya. The line went quiet. But for the first time since she left, the silence didn't feel like something breaking. It felt like something changing. 2 weeks later, she stood in front of me again. Same doorway, same space, but everything felt different. She looked alive, not in a dramatic way, just lighter, more herself. Hi, she said. Hi. For a moment, neither of us moved, like we were both afraid of crossing an invisible line. Then she stepped forward and hugged me. It wasn't desperate or uncertain. It was familiar, warm, real. I missed you, she said softly. I missed you too. We pulled away slowly, still close, but not clinging. I'm leaving tomorrow, she said. I know. A pause, then I don't know what happens next. I nodded. Neither do I. She smiled faintly. That's new for us. Yeah, I said. It is. Another silence. But this one felt peaceful. I'm glad you didn't try to stop me, she said. I almost did, I admitted. She laughed softly. I know. Then her expression turned serious. Thank you for letting me go. I looked at her. Really looked at her. I'm not letting you go, I said. I'm just not holding you back. Her eyes filled slightly, but she smiled. That's better. The next morning, I didn't go with her to the station. She said it would be harder that way. She was right. Instead, I stood at the window, watching the same street where everything had started to fall apart weeks ago. My phone buzzed. A message from her. I'm on my way. I stared at it for a long moment, then typed back, I'm proud of you. A few seconds later, I'm scared. I smiled, then replied, good, that means it matters. There was a pause. Then her final message before the journey. Don't disappear on me. My chest tightened. I won't, I wrote, and this time, I meant it in a way I never had before. Months passed. We didn't talk every day. We didn't pretend everything was the same, but we didn't disappear either. She sent me photos of her work, bold designs, fearless ideas, the kind I used to question. Now I just admired them. I told her about my life, not just work, but thoughts, feelings, things I had never said before. Slowly, carefully, we started building something new, not the same marriage we had before, something better, or maybe just more honest. One evening, months later, my phone rang. Maya? Hey, her voice carried something familiar. Warmth. Closeness. I have something to show you, she said. What? A project, she replied. My biggest one yet. I smiled. I'd love to see it. There was a pause. Then, come visit me. My heart skipped. Are you sure? Yes. A beat. Then, softer. I think I'm ready. I didn't ask what she meant. I didn't need to, because for the first time, there was no pressure, no expectations, just two people who had learned the hard way that love isn't about holding on, it's about knowing when to let go and trusting that what's real will find its way back. I grabbed my keys for the first time in a long time, not out of routine, but out of choice. And as I stepped out the door, I realized something I hadn't understood before. That night at 4 a.m., when she said, "You don't own me," she wasn't trying to leave me, she was trying to find herself. And in the end, that was the only way we had a chance to find each other again.